Hello and welcome to Kisma and the Dark Yogi. Wait a minute, we changed the name. We are now the Illumination Podcast with Nick and Kisma, bringing you ancient wisdom for modern day success so that you can sparkle just a little bit brighter each and every day. If what you hear speaks to your soul, go ahead and give us a rating and a review in iTunes. You can also find us on SoundCloud and Stitcher. And hey, if there's somebody in your life that you think would enjoy this podcast, go ahead and share it with them. Hey, it's Kisma. Welcome to the Illumination Podcast. I'm here with Nick Hansinger, the former Dark Yogi.
Former Dark Yogi. It's behind us now.
Behind you.
I feel good letting it go.
Yeah, so who are you now?
I'm Nick.
You're Nick the Waker.
The Waker Nick.
The Waker Nick. He's going to bring us some light. This is going to be a little bit of a change.
Definitely a change of pace, yeah.
Yeah.
So we've got a new name for the podcast. Well, can you tell us a little bit about your thoughts behind this?
Yeah, well, I'll just share, because many of you that are listening, many of our readers actually would email and be like, what's with the Dark Yogi? You guys aren't teaching dark stuff. And we would sort of chuckle, and this has happened many, many, many times. And then we had one of our mentors say, you got to take out the Dark Yogi because you're teaching light stuff. So we knew the name was going to change. We knew the name was going to evolve, but then to what? And really, I think this word illumination has entered our lives in a couple different ways, very, very close together. But I know that at one point, not too long ago, we set an intention. You might say we set a goal, we set an ideal that we wanted to serve 100,000 people. However we did that, we wanted to serve, let's say this, 100,000 or more people to really bring out the teachings, the ancient wisdom, the teachings, the processes that we've used to create a really stellar life and business and help others to do the same. So when you take that together and look at the vastness of light that can really occur in the world, to me, it was like illumination was the perfect word for it. So we've created Illumination Academy, which I'm so excited about. It's where all of our online courses are. We have Illumination Mastermind. We'll probably get Illumination t-shirts, coffee mugs. We'll be like NPR pretty soon, guys. Like, hey, you want your Illumination coffee mug? I'll send it to you. No, I'm kidding. What about you, Nick? Like how, I know there was a little thing that happened. You were spending some time doing a certain task, and it really did represent illumination. Can you share a little bit about that?
Well, it really highlights illumination, and it struck me while I was doing this. But at the end of the day, I think that if there were one word that were to sum up the goal and the mission of my life, it would be illumination, without question.
Yeah.
So what happened was, Kisma, okay, let me back up a little bit. We were in India several years ago. Many years ago. And we were
one of our many trips, I might say.
Yeah, one of the many trips there. And we were in northern India this time. We were up in Rishikesh, kind of cruising around to the different shops. And we found this one shop with these amazing singing bowls in them, all the hand hammered. They're not engraved, but they've got, I don't know how they do that, but the metal's like actually pounded into it, but in these really
it's phenomenal,
cool designs. There's a Ganesh in the middle. We've got and it sounds like so beautiful. It's such an amazing bowl. And we had it in our house in Grosse Pointe, and it made it with us to California.
Right.
And then it got set back in a corner.
Oh, sad.
Well, it wasn't like we didn't put it in a box, which I think would have been more sad, but it was kind of sitting back in a corner, and it just wasn't getting played. It wasn't getting looked at. Nothing really. It's just sitting back there. And then one day, I don't even know what inspired you to do that, but you just took it out of there and put it smack dab in the middle of the living room table.
Yeah.
And it was just sitting there, and I started to play it a couple times, and I was like, oh, this thing's awesome.
Yeah.
But what made me sad was looking at it, and it was so tarnished. It was so tarnished, like you couldn't even see the design on it. And it was just like
a nice little representation of the layers of the ego all over us, layer after layer.
But it just made me like, I can't have that sitting there. Like, as cool as it sounds, it doesn't look good. So lo and behold, I go out and I get myself some Brasso.
You used to use that on your trumpet, right?
I used to, for sure. I used to use the Brasso on my trumpet. Actually, I found something that worked a little bit better with this bowl, actually, because the Brasso really wasn't cutting it. The tarnish was so thick that the Brasso was really having a tough time, so I found something better. Anyway, I just set to it and started polishing and polishing, and it took me a week.
Yeah.
Like a solid week.
Sort of night after night. We'd sit, we listened to our favorite podcasts, and you would polish.
And I would sit there and polish for a solid week.
Right.
And it reminded me of the analogy that Swamiji had given to us so many times, the analogy of brass, right? When brass gets tarnished, you think that you're going to make it bright again, right? But you're not actually making the metal bright. The metal is already bright.
Oh.
You're simply removing the obstruction so that the brightness can shine. And when I think about illumination, like illumination comes from within. And it's not let anybody here is dim and dull.
Everyone's sparkly and bright.
They totally are.
Yeah.
It's just that these obstructions get in the way. It's like a tarnish.
Yes.
That sets on top of it, and that's what requires to be removed in order to shine brilliantly.
Yeah, I guess, in the personality layers, we would call this the shadow self, right? Layers and layers of either trauma, drama, we call it like ids, emotional identities, blockages, whatever it is. But it's like a person can end up coming from their shadow self. And if it would look like this, if you've ever been in a conversation and all of a sudden it just went south, like really fast, and the conversation turned into an argument, and you're yelling, and the other person or people are yelling, and you're thinking to yourself, who is this person that is shooting these words out of my mouth? Like, it's that moment of being stunned and also very reactive. And when it's all over, you're in shock because you're just like, what the heck just happened? That's the shadow self. That's the tarnish in the layers of drama, trauma, and analogical experiences taking over what you say, what you speak, what you think. It's clouding the brightness and the lightness.
Yeah, and it's usually a reactive state.
Very reactive. What are those 3 R's about information? It's like receiving information.
Oh, the human experience?
Yeah.
So it's the receipt of information from the world. So it comes in, filters in through the sensory. And then your reaction, the reaction within you. So it's like a chemical reaction, basically, where information comes in and then it reacts with your personality, I think, in the broadest sense, or the simplest sense.
Or it reacts with the layers of you, like it reacts with your tarnish, let's just say that.
Yeah, well, your personality, right? Your personality. And then the response, the third hour is response. So it's receipt, reaction, response. And you respond back into the world. And that is your action, the words, speaking is an action.
Right.
So oftentimes those things come from a purely reactive state where it's just like, it just reacted in a bad way, and then you're like, right back out.
Right. So think about this, everyone. Like, what would your life be like if your response to what was coming to you in the world was really calm, very clear, very certain, very confident? Like, what would your life be like? And some of you might already be in that state where you're just like, boom, I got this. No matter what comes my way, I'm in control. And some of you might be having those tarnished moments, where your response is like, is more agitated, or you're feeling something within you like respond and you're not sure what it is.
Yeah. I think a great example and really a great way to know anybody is to just go driving with them.
Go driving. No. This is not going
Right?
there.
And think about it, though. So when I drive,
No.
sometimes I make you nervous.
This is not part of the podcast, people. Just plug your ears right now. Do not listen to this next part.
I think it's fair to say that I make you nervous when I drive sometimes.
He scares me. He does weird stuff.
Right? And so that fear, like, comes out, and then you have an immediate, like,
slow down.
like reactive response, response, like slow down, get out of this lane, whatever. And then I have a reactive response to it,
Very much. He reacts far more than I do.
That is not accurate in my opinion, but we'll let that go.
The dark yogi's coming back.
No, I'm saying I don't think that's accurate, but what at the end of the day, I'm just like, I'm trying to not crash the car, for one. Your fear makes me a little nervous, and, it's like, comes out, and then like kind of a jump thing, and then we're going like 70 miles an hour, and then there's
80. So if you were going 70, the fear wouldn't come out. There would be no response. Let's just move on.
I don't think.
Let's go back to Illumination.
I don't think there's a perfect speed for that. but whatever the case, we're now basically what you've got.
Car wash. Let's get a car wash.
What you've got, though, just to wrap this up, is two human beings in a really reactive state.
Right.
Right. And that's how you drive,
right.
All the way home without talking to one another after that. So, and that's sad, right? That's really sad, because like we're human beings, and so many people have like so much amazing experience and things to share, and conversations to be had, and insights and everything. And we need to be in connection to do that. In order to be in connection, you need to be out of a reactive state.
Oh, that's perfect. Say that again.
In order to be in connection, you absolutely have to be out of a reactive state.
Right. And I heard this, I'm not sure who said it, but it was something I read or I saw in a TED Talk. And it was like, if you're judging someone or if you're comparing yourself to someone, chances are you're not helping them at the same time. So in other words, if you're in front of an individual and you're really wanting to help them or serve them, if at that moment you're judging them, you've stepped out of service and into judging. If you are comparing yourself to them, which is really useless, everyone, like just don't do that. You're stepping out of service and into comparison. So whenever those kinds of emotions come in, that really do create the tarnish, like comparison, judgment. You've heard us say before, it fragments your soul energy. It will create a tarnish over your field that dulls the illumination. And think of it this way, when you're in service, when you're in compassion, when you're really in the flow of connection and love, you shine so brightly. You're fully illuminated from that essence, from that core essence within and then without.
That's just your light shining brighter.
Right.
Like everybody has the light.
Everybody.
And it's just a matter of how much of it will you let shine.
Right.
So when I think about like shining the light, like some of the ways to do that, it's really about removing the blockages to that, removing all those triggers and
the layers,
landmines.
right?
Yeah,
the layers.
All those layers. Now, one thing that really struck me while I was shining that bowl is that, yes, it's really bright and beautiful underneath, but man, like, I had to put some elbow grease into that.
You had to put some elbow grease.
It really, it took some effort. Can you talk a little bit about the effort required?
Yeah. So what was coming to me, I want to be able to say like, it's easy to illuminate, sort of that love, light, and clueless. Let's go sit in the woods and om. And yeah, sounds cute, everyone. But we are in the world. We're of the world. Everyone here I know has this really special life purpose. However dedicated maybe to your family, to your immediate family, to your community, to your work, or maybe it's a really, really big vision. But the idea is to remove the layers of tarnish, of murkiness, so that you can shine brighter will definitely elevate your vision and your mission. It's the kind of illumination that when you walk into a room, people are like, who is that? Like, I want to go talk to that person. That's what this does to your field. We talk about the energy in the field and the strata and the aura a lot. Your field resonates at a higher frequency. Now, in order to make that happen, the elbow grease that Nick's talking about, like how he was polishing the bowl, really comes first. The first piece is to really be meticulous with your thoughts. Because as you know, every thought has this chemical reality. Every thought we have is going out into the universe, getting ready to actually manifest. And the thoughts that have a really highly charged emotion around them, thoughts that are cloaked in a highly charged emotion, will manifest faster. That highly charged emotion could be fear or negativity or anxiety or overwhelm. The idea is that if we're in that kind of emotion, say a low vibratory emotion, we'll attract more of that to us. So those layers of tarnish start to get thicker and stronger and even harder to remove. The same token, if you are meticulous about your thoughts and really lift them up to the higher, if you begin to be supremely aware of what you are thinking, I think you'll be surprised that at first it feels like, I'm using a lot of elbow grease, but after time, it becomes this habit of being a human. You're watching what you think because you have this insight and intuition and knowing that your thoughts are creating your reality. So I don't know about you, but I want to create my own reality. I do not want my reality to be determined by a bunch of other negative thoughts out there. And when we understand that what we are thinking will like magnetize those other kinds of thoughts into our field and make this reality of a manifestation come to fruition, then we're really, really inspired to control our thoughts.
Divine self-expression there. You just did like 5 podcasts in like a minute and a half.
Well, what can I say?
I think it really comes down to the number one tool is the intellect in this case.
The intellect.
Right? That's the go-to tool. The intellect is your ability to discern accurately. Mm-hmm. Right? So it's accurate perception followed by correct expression.
Say that again.
Right? Accurate perception, and, followed by the correct expression of that.
Perfect.
So that's the development. That's the elbow grease, is thinking of your intellect, your ability to be objective, to observe what is without projecting all of your previous perceptions all over it, right? Yeah. Your perceptions, your...
it's like wiping the slate clean.
Totally. Yeah. It's just like as it is. See it clearly as it is. Mm-hmm. That is the role of the intellect. And that's really what helps you to become more and more clear. And it's also that strong muscle, because let's think about it, like in a world like ours that is like so much information and things coming at us, it is challenging to stay focused.
Oh, it's massive information. What do they say? It's like in a 24-hour period, we get as much information as our parents did in a year.
It's like the amount of information is like 72 newspapers or something like that. It's a ridiculous amount. Well, what's interesting about that, and we could maybe do another podcast on this sometimes, is that that's actually the human brain actually has way more capacity than that, right? But it's learning how to use it.
It's learning how and where to put it, right?
Getting into overwhelm and panic and just shutting down or whatever. That's why the intellect's so important, and that's why also treating it as a muscle to develop is incredibly vital, because it needs a strong hand to hold it.
It really does.
Focus and to keep directing your thoughts and your actions towards the higher, right? So that's why the intellect needs to be built.
I know that in the past we've explained the intellect to some students in this way. It's the absence of an intellect. Let's look at it this way. The absence of an intellect would be like getting behind the wheel of a Ferrari race car and not knowing what the heck you're going to do.
It'd be like that and having never driven before.
Never driven.
So you're just all over. I remember when I was racing Ferraris in Vegas, and they had us on the...
simulator.
The simulator, yeah, thank you. and it was really like, because I didn't have a feel for the road or for the simulator, and it was like all over the map. It was like everywhere, and I think the guy that was instructing me was getting a little nervous. He's like, "Oh man, I'm gonna be in a car with this dude all over the place, right?" But when you get in the actual car, like you've got some muscle behind it, and then you can navigate much more. It feels more natural. But really, like driving a car like that, having never driven before, that's pretty much what it's like navigating in the world without having an intellect.
All over the place. And at really the mercy of everyone else or all the other roller coaster energies out there, right? So if you understand that there's a limited number of humans that have understood the value of developing their intellect, and if you haven't developed yours, you're going to be in that mix of a lot of drama and trauma and emotional bunnies.
Right. I mean, I don't want to go way off on a tangent here, but one of the challenges of, especially people that listen to us and find us, is that they're really smart. Yeah. And smart people confuse intelligence with intellect. And the problem with that, is then it gets into like the need to be right and things like that. And then that just shuts down the creative flow and actually the abundance in life.
Right.
So I think we'll do a whole other podcast on that. But for now, it's really important, I think, that big takeaway is really just developing the intellect.
Right.
To be really clear and to discern.
So what would be one thing everybody can do aside from that, noticing your thoughts? Because this is a massive exercise. So what would you suggest, Nick, for everybody to start so they begin to develop that muscle that we're calling the intellect?
Two things.
Okay.
I would start always with sacred study. So
what does that mean for most people?
It's studying some sort of sacred text without, this is going to sound a little weird, without the intention of actually learning anything, really just with the intention of understanding what is being said and then deciding for yourself whether or not you think it's true.
Oh, inquiry.
Yeah. So there's just, you study the text. We study Swami Parthasarathhi's work. The Vedanta treatise is incredible. Governing business and relationships is awesome. The Fall of the Human Intellect is where most people start because it's just a very simple version of the teachings that really relates to everyday life. So you sit down with that. If you did a paragraph or a section a day, that would be a lot. Yeah, it
would be a lot. You want to go deep, right? Very deep.
Yeah, and the point is not to just read through it. The point is to just check it out, like understand very clearly what's being said, and then determine whether or not that resonates for you or how or that applies to your life.
Good.
That's number one. Now, after you take in really amazing knowledge, it's to reflect on it. And to that end, some sort of reflection process. I have a meditation that I do every day, and it really helps me to integrate what I've taken in from that.
Right.
So that's kind of like a 1-2 punch that really helps to develop the intellect and to build the strength with it.
Yeah. Love it. Oh,
yeah.
It's such an amazing tool, everyone. So I hope you follow that. Meticulous with your thoughts. Read some sort of sacred text, just a little bit every day, preferably in the morning. Way better than turning on the TV or opening up your phone or tweeting or whatever. Like, go deep with it. Go deep. And then have some introspection. Inquire, is this resonating with you? Does this make sense in your world? Because certainly you don't have to believe everything you read. That is part of the intellect. And then if you're interested in really going a little bit further, Nick does have an amazing meditation out there. It's called Meditation for Your Full Potential Self.
Full Potential Meditation.
Full Potential Meditation. You can get more information on this meditation, which is downloadable at sourcemovement.com/meditate. sourcemovement.com/meditate.
Yeah, what you'll find when you get there is actually a little training video.
Oh, cool. A free training video.
Yeah, it teaches you like 3 really important components to meditation, which a lot of people miss. that you can just include. So if you just include those in your current meditation practice, awesome. If you like, there's a link there where you can purchase my Full Potential Meditation. It's the exact process that I use every day. It's really amazing.
And it's so great if you've never meditated. Oh, it's such a great way to start because, look, to have someone expect you to sit down and be quiet for a number of minutes and not become completely agitated just is not realistic. Like, we do not recommend that.
Nah.
You need a little guide. You need a little friend in your meditation.
Yeah, there's a specific process that's important. That's another podcast. We should write that
Okay.
one down.
We have so many coming, guys. Illumination podcast. So glad that you're here. And if what we say speaks to your soul, please go ahead and, check out that little iTunes app. Give us a rating and a review and share this with somebody that you love.
Namaste.
Namaste.